And I'm very pleased to be here today with you for our new forecast live utilizing the Square Principle webinar. Thanks so much for coming. The purpose of this webinar is for you to consider coming to the upcoming June 25th and June 26th, Saturday and Sunday, Square Principle seminar here in Las Vegas at the Mirage Hotel. Before we get started in today's meeting, again, I want to thank you for coming. Today's meeting will be a little bit shorter than normal, and we'll get the information packed in. And if while you're listening, you think of some questions you'd like to ask, please feel free to do so. The Square Principle stands on its own. It doesn't require me to have it work. Anybody who knows the Square Principle can make it work. Our company is Daytrading. We're now, I believe, the oldest company on the internet doing this type of work, forecasting for people all over the world, markets of all different kinds. Please be sure to read our trading disclaimer, which is at the bottom of each of our website pages. Trading is risky. You can lose money. And that's especially important if you're new to the markets. Today, we're not going to be talking so much about trading as we are going to be talking about your ability to forecast what a market's going to do utilizing the Square Principle. Because once you understand the principle, once you know what you're doing with this principle, you can go in to virtually any market and make really extraordinary market forecasts for what is likely going to occur. And with that forecast, you can then decide how you want to trade that forecast, or if you want to trade that forecast. Take as an example our Thursday, March 31st bond forecast. So back then, bonds were trading at $150. And our forecast was for a decline from 150 down to 144 to 143 as an initial target, just as a place to book something, and then finally 139 to 138. And subsequently, the market never went any higher than 150.13. It got down to 144 to 143. Then it continued lower and completed 139 to 138, actually making a low on April 20th down at 138.14. To be able to know in advance that a move, and not just a couple of points, but in this case, an 11 handle move in the bond market, when all the information anyone had was this is what the chart looked like at the time. To allow you, or to have you be able to know that that's what's likely going to happen, gives you an incredible new freedom to take advantage of moves that have not yet happened in markets in the way that we're discussing here today. I'm going to, for a quick moment here, bring Jerry on from our Williams Edge meeting, and he's going to talk a little bit about today's work that we did in the S&P, and I'll be right back. And Jerry, are you there? Hold on. Are you there, Jerry?
Yeah, sure, David.
Okay.
Go ahead. No problem. So here I am. Let's talk about what we did today in the room and how really we could only have done that with knowing the Square Principle. So, to be honest, we had a number of trades here today in the room, and initially, despite the sell-off this morning, the vast majority of them were on the long side. We were buyers at key levels that provided nice bounces. So despite a downtrend that was underway, we were buyers and caught nice bounces, many of them 8-10 point bounces. So that worked out really nice. But David, as you know, what we're really pleased about at the end of the day, a couple of things that we had seen. We saw the market attempt 42.32 an exact important square. We'd seen them attempt that a couple of times, and they failed to be able to reach that. And, one of the things that the square principle will provide a trader, again, if you're really in tune with it, is knowledge. And that's the beauty of the principle. It's information, it's knowledge. It allows you to understand just exactly what the market is trying to tell you. So
Jerry,
the market tried to rally.
I'm sorry, if I can interrupt just for a moment,
Yeah,
because the market is attempting to complete
absolutely.
the final part of our forecast, which was 174 to 173, given out in the room today. This is the S&P right here. And I don't want to interrupt you or take any of your thunder away, but I do want to just directly state what the square principle gave everybody in the room today, this information. And that is to sell short at 42.17 multiple times for a final decline down to 41.86 to 84, and then 41.74 to 73.
That's right.
And that move is underway right here.
That's
There
right.
is no way you could know that was going to happen unless you have the knowledge of the square principle. And so far, as we've been talking, just even now, we've already made a low of 41.78. So go ahead, Jerry. I wanted to just make sure before it got there that people know that's the number. So
we've been forecasting a couple of targets here. And as you just said, the 73, 74, and a little something even just below that. I know this is really close by, but the 69 to 70 level. So, and again, as you just said, the ultimate short here this afternoon, when we waited patiently for a really good situation, was 42.17. Took multiple shorts at 42.17. We booked exits at 42.07 and 4200 and held for this decline. Again, only knowable really with an understanding of the square principle. And I mean, by understanding of the square principle, I mean just beyond trying to understand what price represents, what is a square, why is 42.17 a square. So I mean, that's just at its simplistic use is to understand why would we sell 42.17. But the best understanding of coming with the square principles, why would the market need to do the decline that it's now finishing off? Why would that need to be done? What would have clued you into that to know then when you get the opportunity to sell 42.17 that you're going to, it was the easiest, I mean, it's absolutely the easiest trade of the day here late in the afternoon, just literally within the last 45 minutes. It's just fantastic. I was commenting to someone, that was the easiest trade we've had all day today. It was just a beautiful thing. So, my thoughts today, David, are very simple. I know you need to keep it short today and keep it short and succinct. I'm going to continue. Then sure, they're going to get sick of hearing me, but I'm going to be sick and just straight and to the point. A serious trader who continues to work the markets, trade the markets, try to understand the markets. I continue to be confounded why someone continues to listen in and week out, contemplating coming and learning the square principle. If they're truly contemplating coming the square principle, why they don't do so. It really is, to me, a major question in my mind. I know a lot of people here have listened to you for a very long time, and the vast majority of them have not made the commitment to come and learn the square principle. Several people here know the square principle, but most, obviously, the vast majority of you guys do not. And you're very complimentary. You really love our work. You love David's work. His ability is truly, I believe you believe that he's the real deal and that the square principle is the real deal. If you believe the square principle is the real deal, then I continue to beg the question, why aren't you coming to learn it? What is the holdup? Simple, straightforward question. And if you have any desire, I appreciate the conversation I had a week ago with a fellow here, and we had a nice chat, and I got some insight, some understanding, and that was good for me. So again, David, I would say, I'd love to hear from them. I'd love to hear from them personally and have a chat with anybody who wants to do that, David, because I'd like to understand what the holdup is. I'll keep it simple.
Well,
there you go.
And thank you, Jerry, very much. I may ask you to come back on in a little bit here, but I appreciate you coming on right now. The difference between a person that knows this principle and a person that doesn't is like the difference between a person being armed when he's in a dangerous location and how he feels, knowing that he's good to go, no one's going to hurt him, or somebody who he isn't armed and people are walking around that could be dangerous. In the markets, there are always going to be events that happen, unusual movements, things that could really throw somebody off. But when you know the square principle and you know what the market is attempting to complete, what number they're trying to get to, and you understand why that is, then you have the courage of your convictions. And that is the biggest part of this, is that it gives you such tremendous ability to be confident, so much so that you could, like we do, although if you do come to the square principle, you'll be signing away your right to go on TV or go on radio and make forecasts, because we're not here to train people competing with us. Obviously, we're here to train people who are serious market enthusiasts and want to be able to forecast what the market's going to do. It is important to understand what a market is likely going to do under a given set of conditions. Take, for example, a friend of yours, and investigators come to your house, something's happened to your friend, and they have some questions for you. They don't suspect you, they're just asking you some questions. Well, because you know your friend, you know pretty much the nature of your friend, when they ask you questions, you could say things like, well, I certainly know this. He wouldn't have gone out to do such and such past 8 o'clock at night because he's very routine, as an example, about getting to bed. Or he would never hit somebody because he has a very strong belief in, like, say, nonviolence. So you could be very helpful to the police or to investigators because you understood the nature of your friend. What you presently may not understand is the nature of markets. And the square principle is a way of understanding the nature of markets. It's a way of you being able to say, I know this fellow, I know what he's trying to do, and I know where he's going. You know, if the investigators asked you and said, well, we know he was at the corner of, 4th and Main, and he made a left, but we don't know what he did after that. You could help them if you knew the nature of your friend, because you could say, well, I know he doesn't like to walk in areas where there are, whatever, basketball courts or whatever, and you could help them out because you know the nature of your friend. It's like that with markets. When people see our forecasts and see them repeatedly, it does bring about a sensation that a lot more is possible than they presently had understood. When people see a forecast like any of these forecasts, watch for the failure below 41.20, for a decline to 139 to 138. This again is in bonds. It happens to be they got up to 141.11 and they got down to 139.09. So they fell from, slightly below 41.20 down to 139.38. When people see that over and over again, they do get the sensation that there is a lot more for a person to know, to be able to know. And the only difference between a person like myself and a person who doesn't know the principle is knowledge. It's not that I'm special or that Jerry is special, although our families might think we're special and your family might think you're special. But in reality, it's knowledge and the application of that knowledge. So that's what the square principle puts you into position to do. There's a reason, I can assure you, that people who have written books about the random walk theory have never taken us up on our invitation to come and publicly discuss how it would be possible to know all these moves in advance in a truly random market. They don't want to discuss it because they don't understand, but they know that the markets couldn't be random if these types of moves can be called time after time after time. I'll be on Ameritrade Radio tomorrow, Ameritrade TV tomorrow, at ameritradenetwork.com. We go on at 5 a.m., but they will record it. And we may be making a forecast tomorrow for what the market's going to do. And we'll be utilizing the square principle. But what I'm completely free of, and what you'll be completely free of, and you can make yourself as free of what I'm about to tell you as you like. I'm free of cycles. I'm free of candlestick patterns. I'm free of overbought and oversold indicators. I don't have to rely on any kind of divergence or oscillator. I'm free of all use of Bollinger Bands or volume or ADX or MACD or stochastics, support and resistance lines. I'm free of virtually every kind of approach that you may presently know, including anything related to pitchforks, fractals, ellipses, Fibonacci, sacred geometry, Gann, and the whole list. It goes on and on and on. That freedom allows me to focus entirely on what the square principle is indicating. And when the square principle indicates important moves are about to happen to specific distant targets, I get very interested in actually getting in the market and putting that trade, that idea, that forecast to work. And I then have the courage of my convictions because I understand what the square principle does. Take a look at this. I hope I have this chart correct here. This is what you're going to learn at the square principle seminar. Let me be very clear. Of course, you're going to learn the square principle itself. And you'll be in a room with a number of other people who are very interested in the square principle, just like at this seminar here. These people came from all over the world to learn the square principle, and all of these people are very knowledgeable in markets. We don't train people that are newbies or, there's nothing wrong with that, but if you're new to the markets, this isn't for you at this time. The square principle is particularly appreciated by people who have struggled, have been in the markets, have bought things, have utilized things time and time again. And maybe the square principle is the last thing they're going to do. Maybe this is their final chance. They certainly know, and there can be no question at this point about whether or not it works. I mean, we've been here now 23 years, longer than any of the other companies that are doing this. And we're only here because we're making market forecasts for people. They're going to have to be pretty good for us to be here 23 years. And we're on live TV over at Ameritrade, putting out forecasts for tens of thousands of their listeners. We're only on there for the last couple of years because our forecasts tend to be quite correct and they're highly specific. So you'll learn the square principle in the first 30 minutes of the seminar on June 25th and June 26th, Saturday and Sunday, here in Las Vegas at the Mirage Hotel. Then I'm going to show you how to forecast the exact price that any market is going to advance or decline to. Now, you may say that you already know how to do that, but that's not really true. If you really knew how to forecast the exact price that a market was going to run to, that would mean you never really have to have any other price included. If you take a look at our forecasts, the vast majority of them are just to a single distant price. We're not talking about putting a bunch of Fibonacci on the chart and saying, well, here's your first ratio, and here's your second ratio, and here's your third, and fourth, and fifth, and sixth, and seventh, and eighth. That's 8 forecasts. With the square principle, you're just going to simply make one call for a single distant price. And in many cases, that price has no relation to what Fibonacci or any other technique would be telling you. So you'll learn exactly how to forecast this on any time frame, whatever time frame you choose to use the square principle in. Then there's a special part of the square principle, which is called the regain square. When markets regain their squares, they crash. They go down really hard. And the S&P is presently, and has been, in a regained square position for some time to the downside. So to know in advance, not only the market is going to run to a specific number, but that it's going to run a lot further than that specific number is what the regained square tells you. I can tell you that you would never want to be long when the square is regained to the downside. And you would never want to be short a market when the square has recently been regained to the upside. What a regained square is and how to simply and easily apply it to any of your charts, I'll teach all of that to you as number 3 when we're in the meetings and you're over at the seminar here in Las Vegas at the Mirage Hotel. Number 4 is really interesting, and it's called the square within the square. And this is how to utilize the square principle to place buy or sell orders at the exact price that the market in the future will both touch and immediately reverse on. Let me say that again. I'm going to show you how to place buy or sell orders completely in advance of the market getting there or not. It's going to tell you the exact place to place that buy or sell order. And I'm telling you the market will, in the vast majority of instances, will touch and immediately reverse on that number. That's something you presently don't know. But it will do that on the square within the square. And by the way, when you come to the Square Principle seminar here in Las Vegas at the Mirage Hotel on June 25th and June 26th, a whole bunch of what I'm going to show you on charts that I haven't even seen before. I'm going to show you the principles. I'm going to show you how it works. And then I'm going to have the audience, like I do at every seminar, name anything that's tradable on any time frame. It could be markets that we've already covered. It could be markets that we've not seen. It could be some obscure stock. And we're going to take any one of these principles, and I'm going to show you it working exactly the same as it worked on charts, just like the charts that I'm showing you here. You'll see the principle working exactly the same on charts that you select for me to put up on the big screen and apply the very principle that I just showed you. And that assures you that I'm not using or relying on previous charts that are just cherry-picked to make it look good. It doesn't matter what chart you pick. It doesn't matter what part of the principle you ask me to show it to you on. I'll show you it working exactly the way that I showed you on charts like the ones that you've seen here today, which are all real, but I'll show you it working on the markets that you select. So you will be learning a technique, a principle, a method to understand what markets are going to do on charts that I've not even looked at. And you're going to see the principle working on all of them. So you will go home with the knowledge that this actually does actually work the way that we describe that it works. Now, many years ago, when I was much younger, in the early 1990s, and actually in 1990 itself, I discovered the most basic part of the square principle. And when I say I discovered it, I literally mean I was looking at the charts and I had a little question in my mind, barely even registering to my consciousness. And I was watching the market and I saw the most basic part of this principle play out. And I thought to myself, that's kind of strange. I thought these markets were free to do whatever they want to do. My vision of the markets was a bunch of people screaming and yelling in a room and making prices, marking up prices and marking them down. And over time, I started to build on that first insight. And by the time 1995 came, I had developed the square principle enough so that when I was going to places where traders and investors go to these meetings and so on, many of you have probably been there, to go meet with people. I was already making forecasts for people there. And even then, only 5 years in, those forecasts were so pristine compared to what they were using that I ended up teaching for the first time back in 1995 and 1996 a group of very sort of veteran traders the square principle. And back then in 1995 and 1996, $25,000 was a lot more money than it is today. But that's what I charged because it was that important to me that this didn't get out. And after I trained them, I never trained another person until 2017. So from 1996 to 2017, I kept it to myself, and these traders kept it to themselves as their most jealously guarded trading tool, trading secret, whatever you want to call it. And if it was something that was so easy to have found, then many, many other people would have discovered this principle by now. Certainly, it's 2022. Many other people would be making forecasts live completely in advance, just like we're doing. And as you know, when this seminar started, I told you that the S&P was going to be moving lower, did I not? And I told you it was going to be going down from the then current price. Let's just put it up here. We were back over here somewhere, right in this area. Before they rallied up here, they were over here, and we said they're going to go down to, this is 60 minutes. Sorry, we were on like a 15-minute chart, I believe, at the time. Anyway, they've gone down to where we talked about, which was 4174 to 4173. All of you that were here from the start heard me say that. This is the market completing its square. Had you gone to the last seminar, you would have had the same confidence that I did, telling you live that a very specific price was going to be reached during this decline. And you would have known that without any help from me. But you do have the opportunity to learn how I knew that and how you can and should know that, rather than guessing or trying to rely on indicators or other price patterns or something to try to find it. The square principle is not a price pattern. The square principle uniquely is different every single time. Now, this is one point I really want to stress to you. If you're using an approach that's purely mechanical, then it's applying the same thing to an ever-changing set of conditions, the market, over and over again. Now, is that good? No, that's not good, let me tell you. But what is vastly better is if instead of applying the same mechanical approach to something that's constantly changing, how about applying something different this time because the conditions are different? And that's exactly what the square principle does. And that's exactly why it's so bloody accurate in forecasting the market. The thing that everyone has missed is so obvious that leaves me dumbfounded that they haven't discovered it over all these years. And one way to say that is to say that everyone continues to this day to try to place a fixed approach to an ever-changing set of conditions. And the square principle isn't doing that. The square principle is doing something very different than that. And you will be only too happy to know what that is and how you can do that under any set of conditions that the market might present you. So I hope you like the idea of what I showed you when we were up in the high 80s, that we were going to be coming down to 74, 73, and they've just done that. That is the square principle at work in real time. So I want you to keep that in mind. I told you we'd make a forecast during the trade here, and really we were hoping to be able to make the forecast today when the market was going up to 42 17, where we shorted it in the group. Everyone around the world got that trade for the decline from 42.17. The forecast was for the decline to 41.74 to 73. That we just completed that trade. That's the trade. Now, come on, you have to be, if you're a serious trader, you have to be curious how that could be known so clearly in advance. And I can promise you that I'm going to show you everything about the square principle when you come on June 25th and June 26th. Now, let's talk about cost, because this is where most people really question whether or not this is for them. And I completely understand. I mean, heck, when I go to a restaurant, I'm concerned about the cost of a simple meal. So I'm certainly going to go along with you when you're concerned about cost of the seminar. When you enter the realm of markets, $7,000, $6,995 could be made or lost in a relatively short period of time. Would you agree with that? It wouldn't be difficult for a person to lose that much money in the market just with a couple of bad trades, or even, honestly, even one bad trade. It would also be not so difficult for somebody to make that same amount in a couple of trades, but particularly if they have a real understanding of what the market is likely going to do, then they have a real new opportunity that you presently don't have. And that's what I want you to consider. The Square Principle Seminar is $6,995. We hold it over at the Mirage Hotel, where I'll be teaching it to you as I've taught it to a number of other serious traders. And we fully understand and will never bother you if this is just too expensive for you. But if this is too expensive for you, I wonder what you think of the markets, because people routinely lose $25,000 to $50,000 in a month trying to trade markets. That's really common. Go ask any broker who is a futures broker. For $6,995, I'm going to give you something that most of you here today already know absolutely is true and works. Not only because you've seen, maybe you've subscribed to us, not only because you've seen me do it as I've now done. This is the 8th market forecast that I've made for people who have come to this seminar live before the market makes its move. This is the 8th in a row. All 8 have been correct. For those of you who've been to the last 8 seminars, and for those of you that watch us on Ameritrade, there can be no question the square principle works. So would it be overbearing for me to say, I know you want this. I believe you realize that this has value and would be wonderful for you to know. If I can say that, then I want you to think about how easy it is for a person to lose money in the market. And conversely, if a person knows what he's doing, and I can't promise you, I can't make a promise that you're going to make money in the markets because I really don't know. It's not even legal, I don't think, for us to do that. But I want you to know that when you really do know what the market's likely going to do, it changes you. You are different. When you really know the market's going to go from 88 down to 73, or the whole trade, it's going to go from 41 or 42.17 down to 41.74 to 73. It's even lower than that now. But we only take credit for the moves that the square principle forecasts. We don't take credit for anything that happens beyond. Now, what about me? Am I qualified to accept a payment like that and have you come to the seminar? Well, I did discover the square principle. I did work for decades perfecting it to the point where I can simply deliver it to you in such a way that you can immediately absorb the information and begin utilizing it. All of that has qualified me to be the person that teaches the square principle to you, to say nothing of the fact that I've made tens of thousands of correct forecasts utilizing this principle day in and day out here at Page Trader. And I can assure you that when you're on the other side of the fence, that is, when you know the principle, you would never want to go back to not knowing it and still having $7,000 to go lose in the market. I can promise you, you will not want to be in that position again. So once you do know it, I can promise you, you'll say, I would never go back for $7,000 to a condition where I don't know this principle. And now I'm subject to the markets at my current level, whatever that level of understanding was. Not only that, but as an aside, the square principle is just tremendously fun to put together and to use. It's really an engaging thing. I love doing it. Jerry loves doing it. And by the way, Jerry, who you spoke to a little while ago, he was a customer of PageTrader for 8 years. Here he is sitting in the audience right here. That's the guy that was just speaking. He was a customer. He came to the Square Principle seminar. This is him at the seminar. He learned the principle, and he got so bloody good at it that he now works with us in our Williams Edge Plus room. There it is. It has my name on it, but a customer of ours is giving out all of the Square Principle forecasts in this, our most popular product. I hope that helps you understand that you'll be able to use the Square Principle as well. So let me say a few last thoughts on the Square Principle here. There's many more things that we could say. Once you decide to come, the burden of proof is then on me and our staff. Once you say, okay, I've seen you do it. I've seen you talk on TV or radio. I know it works. Now show me how to do it, right? That's going to be on us. And I'm going to show you how to do it. And buckle your seatbelt, because when I'm through with you, you will be flat out astonished at what you can do with this principle. I haven't shown you all the things you can do with the principle and how clever it is in decoding what the market wants to do next. It really is an amazing, if I may say so, and I know you don't have to be a genius or have special skills, but if a person were to look at the Square Principle and how clever it really is, they might think a genius figured it out. And I'm not claiming, I really am not claiming to be a genius, but I am persistent. And I did work on it for a long time because I knew there was something there. And over time, the secrets, if you will, were revealed, discoveries were made. All the work is done. All you have to do is show up on June 26th, June 25th, Saturday, and June 26th, Sunday, and have me teach it to you. And you can book your seat by simply calling us toll-free, 888-231-4702, to place a $1,000 fully refundable deposit, or you can go to our website where under the Square Principle and simply click to reserve your seat, and it'll ask you to choose an option, which is Square Principle Seminar on 625, and pay the deposit, which is $1,000. And about 2 weeks prior to the seminar, we'll collect the rest from you, and we'll look forward to seeing you there. By the way, we are very proud that we have been members. I think we're inching in on 13, 14 years with the Better Business Bureau nationwide. We've done millions and millions of dollars worth of business over that time. We still have an A+ rating, and we're very proud of that. But even above that, we're accredited by the Better Business Bureau. That's the highest rating you can get. And this in a business, may I say, that is fraught with fraud and disappointment. Everybody here knows that. I hate to even have to say it, but in a business that is just fraught with nonsense that's out there. And this is why from now on, when we give these Square Principle webinars, I'm giving forecasts out in the webinar live so that there can be no discussion about whether it's real or not. The only discussion then is, are you serious enough to want this and put it to work? And if you are, then come and allow me to teach it to you, because you don't know anybody more excited about markets than I am. And I'm not excited about them just because you can make money from them. I'm excited about them because I see them as an expression of meaning. I see them as another expression of the whole universe, if you will. And everything in the universe has meaning. The markets have meaning. And in my own way, I discovered a very meaningful thing about the depth of the market and what any person could do if they understood that. And that's why you're invited to come to our June 25th and June 26th Square Principle Seminar here in Las Vegas at the Mirage Hotel. We are keeping this a little bit short this time, but I do want to say to you, I'd take a couple questions if you have them. I'd be very happy to answer anything on your mind today. So let's see what you've got. Let's see. Thomas is here and he says, I'm late. Have you made today's Square prediction yet? We did right near the start of the webinar for the market to decline from, I think it was the high 41.88 level, something like that. And this is really just finishing the forecast we made publicly for all of our subscribers, but it was finishing it to get down to 41.74 to 41.73. Everyone that was here heard that. Thank you. Thomas Saudi's here and he says, hi, David. Wonderful to be with you tonight. Once again, thank you so much for what you do. Thank you, Saudi. He says, early on in the process, will the Square Principle tell us if the distant price target will not be met and the price will go the other way? There are conditions in the market where the Square Principle could appear to set up and then suddenly close or do something that would prompt you to know that the market isn't going to do that. And when it does that, and if it does that, it's telling you about an entirely different set of conditions and an entirely different move that the market is going to make. So that is correct. Most of the time, I mean, generally speaking, the market shows its intention and then runs to the target, just like what I've shown you in the last 8 seminars of utilizing the principle. Joseph's here and he says, is reflected wave the same principle as the Square Principle, but for time instead of price? Joseph, that's actually one of the best ways of describing, I've never even said it that way, the reflected wave principle. It really is, I think, the same, not the same principle, but it is the same kind of principle. It's actually different, but it's for time in the market instead of price. And so thank you for asking that. Saudi says, because your Square Principle is the real deal, does that mean we do not need your wonderful reflected wave course? Could you tell us briefly the difference between a reflected wave and your powerful Square Principle? The reason we teach the Square Principle primarily is because most people are very intuitive already with price, the concept of price, the movement of price. Whereas most people, time seems a little more ethereal. Time seems more distant, not so close, harder to understand how to utilize. So the majority of people are going to get the best, and we are very concerned about people really being able to use what we're giving them. We do turn people away. Honestly, there's a number of reasons why a person might not be able to come to a Square Principle from our perspective. We do a full background check on people, but it's only really looking for background that might include criminal or fraud elements that could make us doubt. I do want to say, however, there have been people in the past that we've had that and we've gotten to know them over time, and maybe they became a subscriber, and then we found out, hey, this guy really is, he had something in his past. Now he's the real deal. He's fine. And we have him come. But we really do want to, make sure people are utterly satisfied that we have the right people there. And just the last seminar we had, I think we turned away 4 people that we just couldn't, for one reason or another, train them. I don't want you to worry about that, but that's just the way that we do business and the way that we assure ourselves that the people who do take the time, energy, and expense to come and learn it are really going to be satisfied with the principle. That's really what we want, is happy people with the principle. So the difference between the Square Principle and reflected wave is that reflected wave forecasts future turning points in time in the market. The Square Principle forecasts future price points that the market is going to run to. But here's an interesting piece. When it runs to that, it often reverses at those levels. Now, in today's session, that's not the case with the 73.74, but in many, many cases, it reverses, and therefore there's kind of a turning point implied. Many, many people have taken reflected wave, and reflected wave has some really interesting things you can do with it, but generally speaking, just as a quick answer, that is the answer. Let's see. He also says, would you agree that using the square principle forecasting ahead of time, we can place stops, entry price, and take profit levels and carry on with our day without any human intervention, let the market do what it needs to do? I would never suggest that you just walk away from the market, although some people actually do that as a principle of their trading. They say, I'm not going to be there in front of it. I don't want to be flushed out or whatever. But I can't suggest to you to walk away. I think it's a good idea to keep an eye on the trade, but you do have time to put all these forecasts and trades together so that you can execute the trade, place stops, and so on. Also, he says, once he's paid the $1,000 deposit, do I call the Mirage Hotel directly and let them know I'm coming to your seminar? No, you simply contact us, let us know, we take the deposit, we let the Mirage Hotel know. We're not big enough to get any special deal from them. They don't give us any special deal for staying there, but most people stay there or across the street at Harrah's Hotel, and there's a bridge that covers the two. So you can just wake up in the Harrah's Hotel and walk across the bridge, and you don't even have to get into the streets and come right to the Mirage Hotel. Let's see, a couple others. Steve is here and he says, hi, David, what time was that sell at 42.17 forecast in today's room? Was the, let's see, and was that 42.07, 41.73 called at the same time? Thanks in advance. Yes. I don't know the time, but it was when they were up at 42, the last time today that they were up at 42.17. They actually went to it 2 or 3 times, and I think we sold several times up there. So if you look at your 15-minute chart, you'll see that. All of the information is known in advance. It's not a ongoing, unfolding picture. Once we short it, we know all the number, the main number that the market wants to run to, which was given out early in today's session by Jerry. At 41, there was 2 levels down there. One is 41.86.84. The other one is 41.74 to 73. Both of those are places that we would normally take profit targets, and they're known completely in advance. In fact, they were known hours before we took the trade that ultimately resulted in those prices being hit. Thank you, Steve. Brian's here and he says, have you ever considered an EOD only service for the S&P, ESP for OS people? I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that, and we're running on time. I'm sorry, Brian. Maybe next time I can answer that better. What protection do you have for a trade gone wrong? Stops. We use stops on our trades just like anybody would, that there are certain levels that should not be breached. So I hope that is helpful. In order, let's see, does an attendee need to fill out a different kind of form? No, we just get your basic information from you and we do a basic background check. That's really all that happens. And listen, we're not even concerned if there's things in your past. There's just specific things that we want to make sure that we're not interacting with. And like I said, we've had people in the past where their background check didn't work out so well, but we ended up working with them and they've turned out to be wonderful people, wonderful customers. On the other hand, there are people who were given that opportunity to, get to know us better. And instead, because maybe their intentions weren't so good, they decided not to do that. Maybe because they felt it was, that they would have to pay some money to come to be a subscriber so we could get to know them better. But that's the only way we would get to know them. We have no other way of getting to know people. You would have to be subscribing and let us get to know you. If it's a person's choice if that's too much to ask. John is here and he says, David, he's asking for an end of day profit target. I don't know about end of day. The square principle doesn't work on an end of day basis. It works on the basis that once the market fails at a specific number, it will run to another specific number, and usually pretty quickly. So that's the main idea. So listen, I want to thank all of you for coming today. I told you we were going to keep it a little bit shorter today, but I do want to say some final thoughts here. We recognize today the market was doing some unusual things. The square principle very beautifully put us into the market in some really great spots. I'd love to have you understand the beauty of that and start putting it to work in your own trading. But don't come here because I want you. I want you to come to the June 25th and June 26th Square Principle Seminar because you really want to be able to do that. Until you know what the market is really likely going to do, you're going to be effectively guessing. And the square principle takes a lot of that issue, guessing, away, because you're working at a different level that doesn't include making guesses about what the market's going to do. So listen, thanks so much for coming today. Our Square Principle seminars on June 25th, June 26th. You can call us toll free. You can do it right now, 888-231-4702. We'll be very happy to take your fully refundable $1,000 deposit. If anything comes up and you can't come, call us. We'll refund you the same day that you call in. I wish all of you the best. Even if you can't come, we understand, but I wish all of you the best. And those of you that are coming, be ready to really understand something completely new about the markets that's never been published before and allows us to do the kinds of things we've done for you now so many times, and specifically in these seminars 8 times in a row successfully. Thanks so much. I'll see you here next time, and stay well, everyone. See you at the seminar. Bye-bye.